today I think I'm going to try to go through the same thing again, moving to the next node in the progression. So we'll continue on that. So I'm just going to try to noodle around for a little bit to get the coffee flowing. I'm just doing kind of upstrokes right now, just trying to grab something that resembles 3 notes and try to strum it a little different on the upstroke. Trying to take advantage of the open strings at the bottom, which I don't do as much because I'm usually going downstrokes at the top, taking advantage of open strings. So if I do upstrokes, I'm thinking maybe that would be easier to take advantage of the strings at the bottom. The problem is that open strings a B, which is like the Locrian node in the collection of notes around the key of C, so that's kind of a weird. What if I played G Mixolydian? with an upstroke, mainly upstroke. I don't know. It's gonna be ugly. get an upstroke on this, just the upstrokes. So now I'm doing the same thing, but I'm just emphasizing the up instead of the down, because normally I do it this way. That's what I do all the time, huh? So now maybe I'm doing that before, but now I can do it to like 2 strings maybe. Actually. Lost it. I was doing. I don't know. It's gone. Something was happening there for a second. That was interesting. So I can kind of really snap 2 strings. really dig into it. Need a hard pick for this one. I don't know. Try to get 3 strings. Really aggressive upstroke. Alright, let's try a joke jump. I have just a stupid joke today. I'll get back to work. Let's see. I don't think it's political at all. As far as I remember. Maybe it is. I don't know. Always, everything's political. It's impossible not to be political. Don't be political. It's impossible. Everything they've I can't help it. It's in everything. Okay. Let's see. All right. It must be boring being a nihilist. It's got to be boring to be a nihilist because there's only like one Nile, you know? It's a short list. It's a short list to be a nihilist. That's not a worldview, that's a pamphlet. Welcome to the Nihilist Society. Item 1, the Nile. Meeting adjourned. It's a short list. It's a short list. It's the shortest list in history. Santa Claus list, huge. Grocery list, endless. But the Nihilist, just the one Nile. That's all you got. Imagine being passionate about that. What do you believe in? The Nile. That's it. That's the list. You know? And they told me if you're going to the Nile, you need a waterproof watch. You need a waterproof watch. Waterproof? I don't need waterproof of anything. I know what water is. I know water when I see it. If it's wet and I'm upset, that's water. I don't need any waterproof. Waterproof meaning what? The watch can prove water? Does it hold up like a tiny laminated evidence cards or something like that? Sir, this liquid has been confirmed. It is, in fact, water. I have proved it. You know? Carrying a watch Carrying a watch just so it can prove water is a waste of time. It's a waste of time. And besides, I can already tell time with my phone as long as I don't get it wet, you know, which means my phone is not waterproof. It does not prove water. The second it sees water, it believes in nothing, man. My phone becomes a true nihilist. Maybe that's what a real nihilist is. Someone who goes to the Nile, drops their phone in it, and says, see, blank screen. Nothing matters, man. Nothing even matters. I wrote a song about it.
It must be
I'm not even gonna say Suno wrote it anymore. I take credit for it, just like everybody on the charts. I wrote this song. I wrote this
not a
song.
worldview, that's a brochure in denial. Not a doctrine, not a creed, not a forest, just one reed. It's not a system, not a style. It's a trifold flyer titled River. Welcome to the Nihilist Society. Gavel hits once, that's the entirety. Item 1, the Nile, pause for applause. Meeting adjourned in under a while. Shortest list in history, no depth, no mystery. Santa's list, legendary, grocery, scary, nihilist, temporary. What do you believe? The Nile, that's it? That's the file. One river wide, philosophy compiled. They told me if you're going, you'll need a waterproof watch. Waterproof? What is it? A courtroom for a bludge? I don't need waterproof of anything. If it's wet and I'm regretting everything, that's water. Splash test theology, no apology. Waterproof meaning what? The watch cross-examines the spot. Does it carry tiny laminated cards? Call expert witnesses from the docks. Sir, this liquid's been confirmed. Case closed, gavel burned. Carrying a watch to prove the tide. Feels like time tied round my side. Waste of time, belt of clocks. River laughs at paradox. I've got a phone, it tells me when, as long as it don't swim again. Which means my phone ain't waterproof. It don't debate, it don't aloof. The second it sees a wave approach, it goes full void, no rebuttal speech. Screen goes black, belief withdrawn, existence flickers gone. My phone becomes a true nihilist, floating in the cosmic mist. No apps, no time, no light, no bliss, just existential waterproofness. Maybe that's a real nihilist. Drop your phone and call it this. Kneel beside the Nile and mutter, dripping screens off river stutter. See, blank display, thunder clatters. Nothing matters.
Sounds like the logic of the current top podcasters. I have to make it political somehow. I'm gonna, okay. Have a Nile list. I have proved it. I've proved the water has been wet by using my waterproof watch. And I want to exhibit that on my podcast to show evidence of my conspiracy. My waterproof watch has proved that water was at the crime scene. And I would like to imply that that makes all these people guilty of something, which I will follow up on with other ingenious mechanisms at my disposal that no one else has. All right. Let's do at least one of these things. Okay, so going back to my thing. So I'm going back to my terminology. And so I'm breaking down the fretboard. I'm not really breaking it because that would be not good. It's a nice guitar. I would never break it like that. Only an animal would do that. But I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm kind of I'm mentally breaking it down into its components so I can, okay. So let's go back to the collection of notes around the key of 4. The key of C, 4 o'clock is what I'm calling it. So once again, standard position. I have at 4 o'clock, the Ionian on the top fret is at 8 fret, back to 5 fret. So that's going to be position number 1. 3rd string down, we're on the star of G, which happens to be a mixolydian in this shape. I'm doing what I call a lean back shape, defined by 2nd modal half step, 3rd scale degree, being in the lower left quadrant as compared to the tonic that we're building. So the standard shape would be this lean back shape, like that. All right. So then I know that the 3rd, as I lean back from the mixolydian, because it's in the long start club, or it's in the long start club, meaning there's a long jump to get to the first chord construction note, which is the 2nd modal half step 3rd. You might call it a major distance, but I'm trying to remove that bias from my mind, and it's really hard. But because I don't want to compare everything to the major scale, because it's a mixolydian 3rd. See, we know that the mixolydian 3rd, the mixolydian 2nd modal half step 3rd scale degree has a long 2nd modal half step 3rd scale degree, as opposed to the short 2nd modal half step scale degree, and it's 4 notes away. Locrian, therefore, always 2nd modal half step 3rd scale degree of mixolydian. And then we have the Dorian, which is the 4th modal half step 5th scale degree. So it's the mixolydian. The Dorian is always the 4th modal half step 5th scale degree of mixolydian. And then we have the 7th, which is now out of whack. Why is it out of whack? Because before I was on the Lydian node, and it has a long 7, which is typical of the long start group or major group. And we know that the mixolydian, although part of the long start group, the major group, has a short distance on the 6th modal half step 7th scale degree, which is 10 notes away instead of 11 notes away. So that's going to be back here. You can get to the 7th by saying, well, anyways. And then we have the one that we're focused on, which is the 9 at this point in time. And it's a compound interval because it has a local distance of the 1 modal half step or 2nd scale degree. So the 9 is the 8th modal half step or 9th scale degree, which is equivalent to the 1st modal half step or 2nd scale degree if we're looking at a local distance. So there's the 1 1st modal half step, which is the 2nd scale degree, and the distance from a local distance is just 2 notes away. So that's the one we're focusing in on now, and that means that nodal point number 6, Aeolian, is always the mixolydian, from a chord construction, the mixolydian 4th modal whole step times 2, 8 modal half step plus 1 mixolydian 9th scale degree. And if we're talking 8 modal half steps up, that's already going around the 7 steps. So 8 minus 7 is 1. So it's equivalent to the 1st modal half step, which would be the 2nd scale degree. The mixolydian 1st modal half step or mixolydian 2nd scale degree, which has a long distance as opposed to a short distance, meaning it's got a 2 note away distance as opposed to a 1 note away distance for that first modal half step second scale degree. Okay, so I know all the terminology is ugly. That's because the terminology that we're using historically is stupid. Okay, so, and we're gonna have to try to fix it without okay. All right. So then what I'm gonna do is I want to say now let's make this go to, I think I went back last time. Let's go up to the Locrian. For whatever reason, we want to make the Mixolydian node the Locrian node. Why would we do that contextually? Well, the Locrian node also has a minor 6 modal half step 7th scale degree, but and it has a minor 1st modal half step 2nd scale degree like the minors, but it also has that crazy here tritone, and it has a flat 2nd. So it would be like we're playing the blues, switching back between like major and minor, except that if we go to the 7, then it's the crazy minor, meaning like Phrygian is the minorest minor, because it has that 1st modal half step. So it has a 1 note away distance here, and the flat 6 modal half step 7th, of course. And then Locrian takes it 1 step further, has everything the Phrygian has, but has a crazy 6. So maybe you want to go full crazy and clashy between a Mixolydian, which still has the 7 flattened, but then you got the 3rd thing going on, but then you have all that other weird stuff. So it's kind of, I was messing with it before. So it's not as you could do it. But anyways, let's first think about it. So if I was on this, if I look at the same string and I look at that nodal point number 7, I would be leaning forward into shape number 2. I'm sorry, shape number 3, which you might call the Dorian shape, or you might call, from an Ionian's perspective, caged shape, the Ionian D shape. So if I had it up here on the 10th fret, and I'm like, all right, there's the whenever the 3rd string's a Locrian, I'm leaning forward into the Dorian shape or the Ionian D shape. So it would be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I imagine the star of G in that same shape, I could just play it as though it's the same shape. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7. So then I can say, okay, so that means what's going to happen? As I keep my finger on the star of G, this whole shape's going to move back to the left. The planet's going to move back to the left. How many ticks? 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks back. That will take me to 0. 0 is equivalent to 12 on the clock, so it's going to be 12, which is G sharp. So now I'm in the collection of notes around G sharp, and everything's out of whack, or we have 3 out of the 5 notes, or 3 out of the 4 other than the root that are out of whack. That's how different the Locrian is from the Mixolydian. So, but before we analyze that, let's go back and say that now we go back to the Mixolydian and say, well, what if I don't know it by that shape, but I know it by the shape above it? So I can see in this shape. So I'm always going to be looking at the lean forward shape, because that will make it a little bit easier. Then we could learn the lean back shape. But I think to get it in my mind, it would be easiest to say, I'm going to name all of the positions, all the nodal points from each point on the 6 strings of the guitar, but one's repeated, so really only 5 strings. And then I'm going to determine what is the lean forward shape, because then there's only 7 nodal points and there are only 5 shapes, and so that'll allow me to trim it down. And if I know the lean forward shape, I will also know the lean back shape. So it would be cool to learn the lean back shape, but if I'm trying to systematically learn it, I'm going to say, well, whatever nodal point is on these 5 strings, and this is a repeat string, then what is the lean forward shape from that perspective? and if I'm looking at the fretboard broken into our 5 shapes, and there's only 5 shapes, even though there's 7 nodal points. And why is that? Because our whole half has 2 half steps. So that means that 2 of the nodal points, typically the ones that are in this box that have the half steps, are going to share a shape. So that means that it's always going to be that 7 and 1 are sharing a shape as I lean forward. So whenever I lean forward here from this shape, from the top string, I would call that a Locrian / Ionian shape. But we ignore the Locrian because so we just call it an Ionian caged shape, E shape. And then here, you can call that a Phrygian / Lydian shape. That's why there's 5 shapes and there's 7 nodes, because these two, because they're roommates, have to share a shape. And I know it's not fair, okay? They complain about it. They don't get along. There's a lot of tension between them. But, we only have so much room, okay? Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to share the room, okay? Share the shape. Share the shape. What are you whining about? There's poor people in the middle of living in poverty, and you're sitting here whining about sharing a shape. You spoiled Locrian and Ionian. But Locrian did get the bad end of the deal because he's in the basement. They stuffed him in the attic. They didn't even let him out. So yeah, he can kind of complain over there. I don't know. I feel like I do have sympathy for the Phrygian too. They stuck him in the basement, and they don't. So I kind of do have sympathy for them, but still, you have to share a shit. That's just the way it is. Okay, look, we don't need to get into the the ethics of it, whether it should be different or something like that. It is what it. We're just going to work with what is right now, right? I don't have control over all that. What do you want? All I can do is what I can do. And so I'm going to say that, anyways, so if we were on this shape up here, it would be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I imagine the star of G was as though it was the top string of shape number 2, or the Locrian / Ionian shape, it would be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then shift up because of the kink in the tuning, 6, 7. So I can imagine that shape. So if I was to shift it, then I would say, well, what's that shift going to look like? Why does that work? Because I'm going to move this down 2 ticks, which is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right. So 5, 10 ticks equivalent, and then back 2 ticks to the left. So 10 minus 2 is 8 ticks. And so if I'm at 4 o'clock plus 8, that gets me to 12 o'clock. So 12 o'clock is G sharp again. So now when I do that change, now I'm imagining not this one shifting back 4 ticks, but this one shifting down and then back 2 ticks. And that means that these 2 shapes are crossing the fault line. So I can imagine them crossing the fault line, shifting up, because that's what happens illusion-wise when they cross the fault line. And then we go back 2 ticks, right? So they're going to shift up 1 tick and then go back 2 ticks, which means they're going to have a net impact of 1 tick back, 1 tick back. So I think that means that this 5 and the 6 right here, or let's do this 5 and 6 are going to line up right there, I think, right? Isn't that right? If I have my imagination right here. Yeah, that's what happens. Boom. So okay. And then, so then we're going to say, so there's my map now. So now I'm leaning forward. I'm still have my finger on the star of G, hasn't moved, but the planet has shifted underneath it. So now I'm leaning forward from that shape into what I would call position number 3, which you might call a Dorian shape, or you might call from the Ionian's perspective an Ionian D shape. And then we're leaning back then, of course, into shape number 2. See how I'm always going to name it by the lean forward. Otherwise, if I memorize it at the same time, I have to memorize 10 shapes, because it could be leaning forward or leaning backwards. right? I could say, well, yeah, that note is in the middle. And that's what that used to drive me crazy because I'm learning the 5 shapes on the guitar. And then it's like, but everything's in the middle. There's like all the stuff is in the middle of 2 different shapes. Which way should I go? Well, it would be nice if you could define which way you want to go when you're learning a particular thing. Otherwise, your head's going to go, well, it could go the other way, man. And so you're always, and that's cool. Like you can point that out, but it's like the person that just keeps telling you like a different way to do something, not to improve you, but just to try to knock you down, man. Your own mind's trying to knock you down. Oh yeah, well you could do it the other way. I know I could do it that way, but I'm trying to narrow it down so I can remember it in chunks that are reasonable, and then I will combine the chunks together. Yeah, but you could like it doesn't help. It doesn't frickin' help if you're just like, well, you could do it like the 10 other ways. I know that, okay, but let's just do it like one way at a time. So then I can, okay. So then, okay, so now if I look at this, I'm on the Locrian node. So the Locrian is like a minor, but then it got kicked out of the minor club because it has a flat 5, right? So that means so it's kind of like on its own, man. So it's like living anyway. So that means that where's the second modal half step? Third. So 7 and then 1 2. It's the Dorian. So the Dorian is the third. That would be like a minor distance away. So the Locrian is not part of the short start club or the tight start club, meaning the minor club, but it does have a short second modal half step third scale degree, which you might call a minor third if you wanted to be major centric, which I'm trying to avoid. So then the 5th is also off. The 5th is off. The 4th modal half step 5th is off. Okay, so it should be 4 modal half steps away. So if I'm on 7, 7's the last one, 1, 2, 3, 4, that would be Lydian. So it's going to be back here. And why is that? Because now we have a 4th modal half step 5th, which is a short 4th modal half step 5th instead of a long short modal half step 5th, or you might call the normal one a perfect 4th modal half step or 5th. But the perfect, again, notice the interval conventions that we have tagged here. You've got major, minor, perfect, augmented, diminished, which you can also call sharped and flatted if you want. That's 5 names, which have multiple names within those to say the same thing. There's only 2 possible choices. So that, and I don't need to compare it to the major, right? So it's the Locrian. I could just say, look, it's the Locrian 4th modal half step or the Locrian 5th scale degree. Well, how far away is the Locrian 5th scale degree? Don't I have to compare it to the major? Why the heck do I need to compare it to the major? I know what the map is. The Locrian, if I go 4 modal half steps up, 1, 2, 3, 4, then it has a distance in half steps of 6. And that's a short distance opposed to a long distance, because if I go 4 modal half steps up from any other node, it's going to be 7 away. Right? If I don't, it's a Locrian 4th modal half step or 5th. I already know it's crazy. I don't need to say it's a flat 5 to say it's crazy. It's a Locrian 4th modal half step 5th. Crying out loud. All right. And then let's say now we have the 7. Now the 7's the one that didn't, the 6th modal half step 7 didn't move. It's still in the same relative position. And that's because the Mixolydian has a short 6th modal half step 7th or a minor 6th modal half step 7th or a 10 note away instead of 11 note away. So does the Locrian has a short 10th modal half step 7th scale degree. So that means that nodal point 6 Aeolian is always the 6th modal half step 7th scale degree away from Locrian, has a short distance, which is 10 notes away instead of the long distance, which would be 11 notes away. There's only 2, short or long. That's it. You can call it major and minor if you want, but then you get all messed up with the perfects, and and then it's not. I'd rather just say it's a short or long distance. It's a short or long. Why are we? why are you complicating things for no frickin' reason? Then let's say that we're going to like the 9. This is the one we're focused on. So the 9, 8th modal half step, 9th scale degree is equivalent to the 1st modal half step, 2nd scale degree. And you can see that if I go 1 modal half step up, it would be around the horn 2-1, and it's only 1 note away instead of 2 notes away. All the rest of them have a long 1st modal half step, 2nd scale degree, but the Locrian 1st modal half step, 2nd scale degree is short, and the only other one in that group is Phrygian. Phrygian and the Locrian, they're the ones stuffed in the attic and the basement, and they have the short distances because they're sharing the shape, man. They're not happy about it. I wouldn't be either, okay? I'm not trying to, they get a lot of flack for no reason because they have to share the shape. I'd be pissed. But whatever. Okay, so now we're going to say, all right, so that's going to be an 8. So that means that the Ionian is always, from a chord construction standpoint, 4th modal whole step times 2, 8th modal half step, which is over an octave, plus 1 would be the 9th scale degree. 8 modal whole steps minus 7, because there's only 7, 8 modal half steps minus 7 is 1. So 1 modal half step away. So that means the Ionian is it's the Locrian's 1st modal half step. The Ionian is the Locrian's 1st modal half step is Ionian, which has a short distance as opposed to a long distance, which would be 1 note away instead of 2 notes away. Makes perfect sense. All right, I'm not sure if I can play it, but I can talk about it all day. I can talk about it all day long. Sick of hearing your talking. Just a talker. All right, Let's not getting the 9 in there. Let's see. Let's see, the 7, 3rd. And I'll try to get that. Seems like it would be possible to get that. That's tough. Hold on a sec. Seems like it should be doable to get all of them. But no, it's an illusion, man. Getting mixed up on my 6 foot. Dropping the 5. Before I'm losing it, let's go and check it out this way. And just to finish the analysis. Oh, man. No, it's not. Let's go here. Okay. So now, if I had the planet laid out in a map flat, and then the constellation of the fretboard on top of it, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret up, 3rd string down, is by position of the shape, the star of G. And then if I'm like, I want to make that Locrian, I'm like, okay, here's a Locrian on the same string. That would be leaning forward into the Dorian shape, or you might call it shape number 3, or the Ionian D shape, which means it needs to move back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks. Wait, is that 5? It's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks back. No, 4 ticks. 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks back. And I'm on 4 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of C. So 4 minus 4 would be 0, or 12 o'clock on the clock face. So we'll bring it back 4 ticks. And we can see now from the perspective of the yellow fretboard, we're still 5th fret up, 3rd string down, which means it's the star of G. And we're leaning forward into shape number 3, or the Dorian shape, or the Ionian D shape. Bringing that back. Okay, so what if I only know this shape from the top string? I'm like, okay, I know it up here. There's the Locrian. That's shape number 2, lean forward shape, which you might call the Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape. So that's fine. I could play this star of G as though it was the top string of shape number 2, as long as I account for the kink in the tuning, meaning it's going to have the same. I can make this string and then this string, and then I have to account for the kink in the tuning, which would be a shift to the right, which is represented in the fretboard by it being distorted to the left. So I'm going to say, okay, why does that work? Because if I count down, 2 ticks down is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right each, so that would be 10 ticks to the right minus 2 ticks to the left. So that would be 10 minus 2, or 8 ticks net to the right, which would be at 4 o'clock plus 8 is 12 o'clock. So 2 ticks down, 2 ticks to the right. So now from the perspective of the yellow, once again, this is the 5th fret up, 3rd string down, star of G, leaning forward into shape number 3, or the Dorian shape, or the Ionian D shape. But from the perspective of the red, you can see that I can imagine that shape as though it was the top shape of the 4th, the top string of the 4th shape, as long as I account for the kink and the tuning. All right, now there is one closer. The closest one is right below it here. So instead of saying, hey, look, we got to go 4 ticks to the left, it might be easier to say it's 1 tick up and 1 tick to the right. So that might be the easier way to go. Does that work? It should, because that would be what 1 tick up would be equivalent to 7 ticks to the right, or equivalent to -5 to the left, 5 ticks to the left, right? So I could say 1 tick up would be, you could say it's -5, and then minus 1 tick to the right would be -4, which would be 4 minus 4 is 0, or 1 tick up is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right plus another tick to the right, which would be 8, and 8 plus 4 o'clock would be 12. All right, so boom, 1 tick up. Oh, wait a sec. 1 tick, boom, boom. So there we have it. So now I can imagine it that way, and that once again gets me to 5 ticks up. I'm the yellow, 3 down, and that 7 is still at 4 o'clock. All right, let's look at it this way. Let's imagine I put all the notes on top of it. So now we have the full constellation of stars on top of the planet, which has 7 continents and 5 oceans symmetrically placed on the planet, so that I can rotate in any direction. And then the constellation of the fretboard is on top of it now, once again showing that the open E string, the one closest to the ceiling, is nodal point 3 Phrygian, open A is nodal point 6 Aeolian, open D is nodal point 2 Dorian, open G is nodal point 5 Mixolydian, and open B is nodal point 7 Locrian, which is shifted because it's in water, it's distorted, and open E once again is nodal point 3 Phrygian. 5 frets up. This is 0 fret, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5th fret up in or at 4 o'clock is an A, and 8th fret is the C. So there's shape number 1. Going down 3 strings, that gets me to my star of G once again. So I want to make that a Locrian. Well, I can see the Locrian on the same string is up here, leaning forward into this shape, which is shape number 3. You might call it a Dorian shape by the top string, or an Ionian D shape from the caged system. That means the planet has to spin back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks. No, wait, not 5 ticks. 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks, which will once again get me from 4 o'clock down to 0 o'clock, which is 12 o'clock on a clock face. So we're going to go boom, 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 boom. Takes me back right there. Bam. So now we are at the star of G. Hasn't moved. My finger's on it. I'm leaning forward into shape number 3. And I can see that I'm at G sharp, which is note 12 if you make A note number 1, because that's the Ionian, meaning I'm at 12 o'clock. All right, let's bring it back. And now let's say, okay, so then I can also say then, well, what if I know this Locrian up top? I know the Locrian from up top. So that's the Locrian / Ionian shape, or you might call it shape number 2, or the Ionian E shape. So I could then, if I know that shape, imagine this star of G as though it's the top of shape number 4 to make the shift. Why does that work? Because I can move this down 2 ticks, which would be equivalent to 5 ticks to the right each, or 10 ticks total, minus 2 would be 10 minus 2, or net 8 ticks to the right. If I'm at 4 o'clock plus 8, that would be 12 o'clock once again. 2 ticks down, and then 2 to the right. So now, once again, from the perspective of the yellow, I'm at shape number 3, leaning forward into shape number 3, which you might call the Ionian D shape. And we know that we're at 12 o'clock because G sharp, which is note 12, is the Ionian node. Okay, and so then if I go back on up and say, okay, that makes sense, I feel like, if it does. And then here's the one below it. So there's the one below it. What if I know that shape? That's the closest one. So instead of going too many ticks, I'm just going to be like, well, no, the world just goes 1 tick up and then 1 tick to the right. 1 tick up is equivalent to 7 ticks to the right, or 5 ticks to the left. If it's 7 ticks to the right, it would be 1 tick up plus another tick to the right, 8 ticks to the right, at 4 o'clock plus 8, 12 o'clock. Or if I say 1 tick up is equivalent to negative 5 ticks to the left, minus 1 more tick to the right would be negative 4 ticks to the left, equivalent. If I'm at 4 o'clock, 4 minus 4 is 0, or 12 o'clock. So 1 tick up, 1 tick to the right. So there we have, so that one, once again, lands me on leaning forward into shape, from the yellow perspective, shape number 3, which you might call the Ionian D shape, or the Dorian shape from the top note of the shape, which you can see is collection of notes at 12 o'clock, or G sharp, because the Ionian is on G sharp. Okay, so that's that. My head hurts. Let's bring it back. I think that's the analysis for today. Just a little out of time until the mind breaks. And then hopefully it will keep repairing itself by tomorrow. That's what happens yesterday. It just keeps...
Thank